Welcome to part two of the two-part conversation with Bob Chapman, CEO of Barry-Wehmiller and co-author of the book Everybody Matters: The Extraordinary Power of Caring for Your People Like Family. In last week's episode, we talked about the poverty of dignity in American businesses that focus primarily on results, and how creating a caring culture at Barry-Wehmiller has not only led to happier employees, but also healthier relationships with family and friends. This week, we talk about the key to converting the strongest resistors to change, how we can create a sense of urgency about building caring work cultures, and the power of self-reflection in defining the meaning of success. This is E3, engage and empower with empathy. All I could think about, Bob, is going back to when you were talking about safety. Unfortunately, I feel like oftentimes it takes a tragedy or something it really shakes people up to really move into action, right? And I think about an example that my father gave me. He's a safety leadership consultant, and he uses a lot of your principles in his leadership consulting work because he focuses not on those lagging indicators of incident rates, injury rates, et cetera, but having a why of caring. And he always gives an example in his workshops with safety leaders. When he was working in a manufacturing facility, he had two guys who I think they had to be strapped up really high, and it required a harness. Both of them were adamant on not wearing their safety gear. We've never been hurt this way. And one day, unfortunately, one of the men, he was up high, he didn't have his harness on, and he fell to his death. And those two men were best friends. They went fishing together after work. They hung out on the weekends. And the man who survived, because obviously he was so shaken up by the death of his friend at work, he became the strongest advocate after that and really was championing safety and looking out for safety and having safety conversations with people afterwards. Unfortunately, it took a tragedy to really transform this man from a safety perspective. And you were talking about caring for people. When you don't have something like safety where there is injury or death, something right in front of you, a tragic incident, but you might have little bits and pieces of, someone's getting stressed and taking it home with them to their families. Leaders don't really feel the impact of that immediately. So there isn't really this sense of urgency. How do you create that sense of urgency in people, that this is something that needs to be done? How do we transform our mindset so we're not just sitting around waiting for a tragedy to happen until we start caring about people?
Well, since your dad's involved in safety and you use that example, let me show you how truly human leadership was embraced with the idea of safety. So probably it may have been 15 years ago. Our financial officer came to me and said, "Bob, our workman's compensation claims are up significantly and we're going to miss our budget." That was the exact conversation. We budgeted so much for workman's compensation costs because our claims are up. What are you going to do about it? And we had just kind of formed this empowerment team, and a lady named Rhonda Spencer had just joined it. And she was asked to sit down with the human resource team, our people team, and discuss this cost. They began the conversation under Rhonda's guidance with, let's remember, we measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. So we started with the guiding principle. And then we went into, what does safety mean when we talk about our guiding principle of leadership? What does safety mean? After a robust conversation, they came up with a transformative view of safety. And the statement was as simple as, we don't want our friends to get hurt. Your example, we don't want our friends to get hurt. Guess what happened? Everybody wanted to be on the safety committee because nobody wanted their friends to get hurt. And our workman's compensation claims, as a result, went down dramatically. Why would you want to be on the safety committee? Well, because, we had 14 days, we had an injury. That is the wrong reason to do it. You do it because you don't want your friends to get hurt. That simple, beautiful, powerful statement transformed our sense of safety in the company because we said we don't want our friends to get hurt because we measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. We didn't wait for a tragedy. You're right. Most of us react. Now we have to. The other example is healthcare. I talk to CEOs of major companies and I say, you're all worried about the cost of healthcare? You are the problem. 74% of all illnesses are chronic. The biggest cause of chronic illness is stress, and the biggest cause of stress is work. You are the problem. And so I would say to you, the lens through which we see our responsibility as leaders affects the way we behave. It affects our leadership style. So if you're trying to improve financial performance, safety is a cost. Okay, you don't want, gee, somebody fell down. But how do you inspire people to want to simply make sure your friends don't get hurt? Number of lost days without accident. Do you think people walk around thinking, oh, good, you see, we're up to 45 days without, okay. Our workman's compensation costs, good, we're going to be below budget. If you'd start with the wrong reason, it is not sustainable. So I would say to you, safety is found just like our kids. Are you going to say, it's 14 days since our kids have been hurt, so let's put it up here in the kitchen so everybody can see? I spoke at several healthcare conferences, and I sat around and with the groups before my speeches. And why were they there? They weren't there because they wanted people to be healthier. They were there because the cost of healthcare was going up, and they were all sharing ideas on how to help people improve their health to reduce the cost. So if you start with the wrong reason, you end up with the wrong result. We don't embrace healthcare from the standpoint of measuring, if we do this, we can reduce the cost of healthcare. What we want to do is we want to treat those people in our span of care with respect and dignity to remove as much stress as we can from their life so they feel valued. And again, stress is a cause of cancer, heart issues, all kinds of issues, absenteeism. But it's not the reason we do it. And it's not how we measure success. Okay. We measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. So, and again, from a safety standpoint, if you begin, we need to reduce the number of, we need to increase the number of days between accidents. We don't wait for a tragedy to do something, which is most people I find in leadership positions react to stimulus. We got a major order. We lost a major order. We got to shut a plant down. We kind of go day to day reacting to what we face instead of laying the foundation for the future, a higher calling. So if we say we need to give our people a better future, and we need to make sure that they're safe, their soul and their physical are safe in our care, and they go home healthy, it's a totally different angle. But what we do is we have a healthcare group over here, we have a safety group over here, and they do all these traditional things, okay? Safety is we don't want our friends to get hurt, period.
So, talking about change management, I led people through change. I see how difficult it is to change mindset, to change behavior. You must have had to go through that with your team, with your people leaders, as you were engaging this concept of truly human leadership, proactive conversations with people, coaching conversations versus reactivity. I actually remember the example in your book where you had someone who was very much anti the concept you were trying to put forward, and actually eventually became one of your biggest advocates and even one of your teachers at your school. How did that transformation happen? How do you change people and get them to come on board with this approach?
Well, Bill Urey, the name that we talked about earlier, the Harvard peace negotiator. Bill Urey used the example, and the person you're talking about is Randall Fleming. He worked in our manufacturing area. He ran a big machine tool, pretty much had a pretty military background. It's the kind of guy you stay away from in the plant. You don't mess with Randall. And what Bill Urey described, he would describe the question as we have courageous patience. You can't look at the people in your span of care and say, I'm going to do the same thing for anybody, any more than you can have 3 kids in your family and treat them all identically, okay? We are all uniquely different. Everybody's had a different experience. Everybody has a different personality. Everybody sees it. And so what you try to do is flex. So Bill Urey described it again as courageous patience. And he said, it's like a bus going around in a circuit. The bus pulls up, the truly human leadership bus pulls up. He said, would you like to get on this bus and join us? And he said, you know what? I'm not quite ready yet. And we say, that's okay, because we'll be back. And so what Simon Sinek encouraged us to do, which was a factor, is to focus on the people that do get it. Focus on the people that do get it, and others will follow. Law of early adoption. So Randall, it took him a while, but when he clicked, seven Harvard professors who came out and wanted to write a book about him because his transformation was unbelievable. It's a beautiful example of flexing to where everybody is. It took him longer, but boy, when he got it, he became a symbol of truly human leadership. So again, you can't treat everybody the same. Everybody could have had 4 jobs before they're treated like crap and just doesn't trust management. Okay. And you need to say, I understand. The one thing I also wanted to make sure your listeners heard, because Bill Urey, and I said in the book, after Bill Urey, as he was finishing his 2 days, he said, Bob, I heard a lot about your empathetic listening class in my 2 days of talking to your people. And he said, what I realize now is I've been going, and here again, a global peace negotiator, started Harvard School of Negotiation. He says these words to me, Bob, I now realize I've been going to global peace talks for 30 years around the world. As a result of this visit, I now realize that's exactly what they are. They're global peace talks. The problem is we don't know how to listen. So when you look at our political leaders talk to other political leaders or different parties talk to them, I'm right and you're wrong. And I see that because we think the way I see the world is the way it is. And what we realize in listening is that we all have a uniquely different lens, and we see that we didn't choose, we were born with the personality type that shapes the way we see the world. And when you learn to style flex, whether you're teaching a class, whether you're running a manufacturing department, when you realize that we are all uniquely different, we simply want to know we matter, and you give them style flex, in time they will join you. If they don't, and they're an issue, then we have hard love. Sometimes the best thing you can do for somebody is sit down with Bill or Mary and say, Bill or Mary, we've really been working with you for several years. It just doesn't seem like this is the right place for you. There may be a better place for you. And that's sometimes hard love is not easy as parents, but it's the best thing we do for people sometimes, in a respectful, caring, and dignified way. Okay, not fire them. That's one of the horrible words we hear all the time. We're going to fire you. Would you fire your kids? Okay. Do you know where that came from? The French firing squad. Why do we have this broken language where we use these words? Because we have never become truly human organizations. We are economic engines to create profit that we think is our goal, and profit should be the result of our stewardship of people and our good business models. I don't want to de-emphasize this because it's really important. The foundation of caring, if you're in your family and you have a job that provides for your home, your education, your food, and shelter, your job is fairly important to your responsibility to your family so you can be good stewards. If you're a leader of a company, you've got to make sure that you have a business model that can sustain and provide income and a future for your team members. Most people don't think of that. I learned that at a young age, that our business model has got to be robust, because we cannot be good to our people if we don't have a good business model that gives them a future. Okay, if our business model fails, we're going to hurt people. Some people say you need to get the right people on the bus. I say you need to build a safe bus, which is your business model. And then you need drivers who are your leaders, who know where they're going and how to get there safely. And then anybody you invite on the bus is going to get there fine. So again, these are not things that are taught. You can't be caring for your people. You can only do if you have a good business model, because if your business fails, you're going to hurt the very people who put their faith in you. So I want to make sure all the leaders who listen into your podcast, your foundational responsibility is to make sure you have a good business model so people can decide to raise a family, get married, have children, buy a home. How can you do that when next day somebody's going to walk in and say, well, we needed to lay off 10,000 people and you're one of them? So that's the society we live in right now. We talk about all the time about firings, layoffs, downsizing, like that's just what you do. And it's one of the ways we are destroying our culture, because people feel used, not cared for, and it results in a poverty of dignity. They don't feel valued, they feel used.
It's incredibly inspiring what you're accomplishing here, Bob. And I know we've had quite a big discussion, but I want to leave this dialogue with a fun question. And that is, if you could go back and talk to the 30-year-old Bob Chapman, what would you say?
I thought about that, and it just so happens at 30 years old, my dad died when I was 30, and I stepped into running a pretty challenged company. So that was a pretty momentous time in my life. But what I say to people of that age and younger, college students, to me, the most important thing you can do, Rebecca, is what do you want your life to be? What will you define as a successful life? And then write your eulogy. When your day comes 100 years from now, when you leave this earth, what do you want people to say about your life? And then use that as a guidepost, a North Star, and make it true. I find me at my age of 30, I just reacted to things. We had a problem here. We had a financially troubling company. We needed new technology. I was reacting to issues, but I was not creating the future. So I would say to you, what will a successful life look like to you? Write your eulogy that will express it, that will make you proud when you leave this earth, that the time you're here, you lived your life fully in service of others. That is a successful life. And I would say to you, don't just react. Live life with intention. Run your business with intention. So that would be the advice I would give to a 30-year-old Bob. Write your eulogy and then go make it true.
I love that. It reminds me of a conversation I had a few months ago with another guest on my podcast who his mantra is similar to your eulogy concept, where rather than waiting until you're at somebody's funeral to recognize, how wonderful they were and what a good life they had, write letters of gratitude to people. So I would say, to add on to your suggestion, write your eulogy, but then also think about that intent for your life, and think about all the people who will help you reach that intent, and send them a letter of gratitude. Thank them for their contributions and what they've done to help you get to where you are today. Because I think that ties into one of the courses that you have around recognition. We often forget to just say thank you to people.
But remember, saying thank you, listening, both are a skill that is teachable. You cannot just say, because actually in expressing gratitude, it's called FBI, feelings, behaviors, and impact. When you thank somebody, think about your feelings, the behavior that you're trying to amplify, and the impact that it had on you. And so listening is not about listening to what they said, but what did they mean? So these are skills that we should be teaching people, in schools. We can't ask people to express gratitude if they don't know how to do it. So these are, again, that's just what BW University eclectically began doing. You would sob if you heard all the stories from around the world of what this means to people to actually be a part of an organization that cares about them. It is the greatest healing power in the world that we just are not teaching people to do. We're teaching people that success is money, power, and position. And it doesn't matter how you get it, because when you get it, you can write checks to charity. And everybody said, you're a wonderful person. Look at the checks you wrote to charity, okay? And instead of, how did you live your life? That is the greatest act of charity, not the checks you write to charity. The way you treat people, whether they're in your family, whether you're in your organization, in your community, and how you view people affects the way you treat people. Do you see somebody as a taxi driver, or do you see him as somebody's precious son, and you talk to him with respect and dignity? So that is the healing power of truly human leadership. The way we see people affects the way we treat people.
Well, thank you for leaving me and my listeners with such inspiring words. I'm definitely going to be looking at the world through a different lens after this conversation. And just as we wrap things up, I have Bob's book here. I'll put it up on the screen. Everybody Matters. Highly recommend. This is literally, it has a permanent fixture on my bookshelf behind me. I use it as a compass every day. Talking about North Stars, this book is my North Star from a leadership perspective. I look forward to being one of your disciples, Bob, and spreading this methodology to others so that we can build a better society and take better care of our neighbors, our family, our colleagues.
Yeah. As we build a better society, the words I use, Tom Friedman said, we don't have more than a poverty of money, we have a poverty of dignity. And when people don't feel valued, they feel used, they feel a sense of humiliation. And when you feel a sense of humiliation, you'll see anger and unrest like you've never seen before. So I think Tom Friedman captured it. The issue we face in our society is we have a poverty of dignity, not money, of dignity. And we don't need to change governments. We need to teach people how to care for others. You cannot ask people to care for others. You need to teach them how to care. You can't ask people to speak Chinese or German. You have to teach them how. Caring is a language, and when you learn it, it fills your heart with joy. So thank you for this opportunity, Rebecca. Clearly, you've been a disciple. We need disciples that will carry this on for generations to come so we can start healing this brokenness we feel in the world and enjoy the beauty of every human being that we have the opportunity to get to know and encounter. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you for being an inspiring part of my day.
Okay. To whom much is given, much is expected.
This podcast is designed to help busy business leaders create an inspired and engaged workforce. I am building a community of like-minded leaders and experts who all share the same passion, taking care of people at work. Whether you are a blue-collar worker or a white-collar worker, small business owner or corporate executive, you belong in this community. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. If you know someone who I should interview or should be part of this community, please connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Life is too short. Let's take care of each other at work so that together we can make this world a better place.